God, Kubrick, you dirty old man. Welcome to Groovy Movies. My name's Lily Austin.
And I'm James Brailsford. Hello.
Hello, and happy Christmas, everyone.
Oh, yes. Merry Christmas.
Well, yeah, we're at the point of recording, we're a little bit out from there, but we're picturing you guys all gathered around your Christmas trees just a couple of days
Eggnog
to go
in
before the
hand.
big day. Oh, yeah, I've never actually eaten eggnog. Have you?
I do drink eggnog.
Sorry, drink it. Is it nice?
Is it nice? It's a delicious eggy alcoholic drink, yes.
Oh, okay, that sounds disgusting, but great. Okay, everyone, pick up your eggnogs, settle in, because for our final episode of the season, we're going to get into the holiday spirit in the best way we know how, by invoking the spirit of one of cinema's greatest masters to offer you, dear listeners, a list of festive recommendations to keep you entertained, exhilarated, and sometimes scared throughout this Yuletide.
Yep, you guessed it. Of course, we'll be discussing our top 3 festive films by Stanley Kubrick. Because when I think Christmas, I think Stanley Kubrick. So that's where we're going. I can't wait.
Our hearts are black, our souls are decrepit. Obviously, we think of Kubrick when we think of the festive season. Okay, so let's start with an explanation because, yeah, maybe Kubrick isn't the first director you think of when you think of Christmas. Actually, out of interest, well, who is the first director you actually think of when you think of Christmas, James?
That is a good question, right? That is a good question. I kind of think of Spielberg because I always think that one of his films is usually on the telly. Not that the films are specifically Christmas, but I associate that, especially when I was growing up, before the prevalence of just being able to get any film you want at any moment, like watching a Christmas film on the telly. It would often be a Spielberg film, so that was a real treat.
That is exactly who I think of as well. But guys, we're not talking about Spielberg today. We're going for an alt Christmas with Kubrick. And James, what is our justification for that?
What is our justification? Oh,
other than I suggested it to you because I know that you love Kubrick and I thought it would be fun. Maybe there isn't any other justification. I was curious if you could come up with a concept as to why we are doing this.
Oh right, no, yeah, what you just said, that's the concept, and I was up for it really because I hadn't really thought of many Christmas themed Kubrick films, but yeah, there's a few there.
Yeah, we're keeping the list tight. And actually, we thought top 3, but I feel like we've already actually established that there is really a top 5, but we're just like going to be battling it out for third.
I mean,
place
I think, and we'll let our audience be the judge of this. I think some of them might be just a little stretch as Christmas themed, but that's perhaps why we're here. That's
okay. Well, let us commence the countdown. Okay, James. Well, as I said, we couldn't quite decide on place number 3, so I think what we should do
maybe this is like honourable mentions. Number 3 is like there's a few films jostling for position.
Well, that's it, but I think we should just discuss all 3, kind of whistle stop through them, and what the pointers that make them festive, the pointers that make them unfestive, and weigh it up, and then we can maybe order from 5 to 3. What do you think?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great.
God, asking me to keep track of numbers in my current. I'm slightly ill, listeners, if you haven't already heard.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. James is doing us a real service because it was.
I mean, I think only Stanley Kubrick films would pull me off my illness at the moment.
That is how I ensnared him to do this recording, despite your sorry state. Okay. Well, shall we dive in with 2001 to warm us up?
Do you read me, Hal? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
My all-time favourite film, one that I'd never ever once thought about in relation to Christmas until doing this podcast. But we have a few pointers here that I would say tangentially related, because there's certainly no scenes set at Christmas. Am I wrong here, Lily? What?
No,
What?
you're completely correct. But even that, okay, look, let's lay it out. The Christmas movie. There are different types of Christmas movie, okay?
Oh, I see. We've got some ground rules established here. Okay.
Well, I think the thing is, if we think about the offering at Christmas on the TV, you have the Christmas film set at Christmas, surrounding a family or a child and some magical things ensuing. Maybe Father Christmas is involved, perhaps a Grinch. These kind of typical capital C Christmas stories.
Okay.
But
Yep.
then you also have the ones that are set at Christmas but are not a festive story, like your Die Hards. Then you have a third category, which is not set at Christmas, but invokes many of the narrative elements that we attribute to a Christmas film. So it's got to
Okay.
be family friendly. There might be some kind of magical element. It might be a musical, because I think there's a real
Okay.
camp element to Christmas. High energy, positive vibes,
Okay.
families coming together. I think all of these things can make a Christmas movie. Adventure as well is a good one, because I think
Yep.
for me, Jurassic Park is like a go-to at Christmas. I think we talked about it last
Absolutely.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are films like that that fit with that, which is why for me, it seems clear that 2001: A Space Odyssey takes third place, because, okay, it's not set at Christmas, but there's classical music. That's very festive. People like that. There's a father away from home, that Floyd character. He calls Kubrick's daughter, who plays his daughter,
Oh, yeah.
over the phone and asks her what she wants for her birthday. Quite similar to asking what a child wants for Christmas. I think that, I can hear Chris Rea driving home from Christmas playing in the background. It's basically that. And they're in space, which is very cold. Christmas is cold. It's set at winter.
Okay.
And I believe this is a family-friendly movie. I believe it is a PG certificate. I didn't actually double check that, but that's my gut.
I think when I had my VHS tape of it back in the day, I think mine was a U for Universal.
There you go. There you go. I was
Maybe they've
thinking like
recategorised
Hal
it.
might have brought it up to a PG. And babe, that you've brought me to my final point about this, which is I know that you watched this film as a kid and really loved it. It's perfect for children. Perfect for the whole family at Christmas.
You make some points, Lily. I would like to counter with perhaps Paths of Glory.
Hello there, soldier. Ready to kill more Germans?
Yes, sir.
What's your name, soldier?
Sir, Private for all Company A.
Uh-huh. You married, Private?
No, sir.
Well, I'll bet your mother's proud of you.
Yes, sir.
Well, carry on, Private, and good luck to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
An earlier Kubrick film, which actually went on its general release on the 25th of December. So there's a very strong actual bond to Christmas there.
Okay, that's good.
It did actually have an LA release in the 20th of December, but the general release of 25th. And the whole film is set around the winter period of the trench warfare in World War One. So everyone's cold and shivering. The thing is, that's where anything to do with Christmas ends, because I think actually the points you've made about 2001 having these Christmas elements are completely lacking in Paths of Glory. Apart from the fact that it's set in the wintertime, it was released at Christmas. It's like a very harrowing anti-war drama depicting brutality and injustice.
You know what? I'm ashamed to say, I wish we'd, because this came in as like a late runner. Today you were like, by the way, I've snuck in Paths of Glory. I think I can make a case for it. I've had a very Kubrick last few days. This has been a very Kubrick Christmas for me thus far, listeners, because I've watched 3 Kubrick films in the last 48 hours.
What have you watched?
So I watched The Shining with my husband on the last 2 evenings, not last night, the evenings before. And yesterday I watched, spoiler for what's coming later, I watched Eyes Wide Shut and 2001 back to back.
What a marathon Kubrick session
It was
you've
actually
had.
so fun. I had a great time. It was so good. And obviously we've actually talked about all of these films. Actually not Eyes Wide Shut, but we've talked about the other ones before. So it was more just a refresher to sharpen my Christmas pointers on it. But to go back, I wish I'd watched Paths of Glory, and I'm intrigued. So my question to you, having not seen it myself, why was it released on Christmas Day? It sounds not family friendly. for one thing.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I've not done much of a dive. I was like, wow, releasing a film on Christmas Day. I don't know. I'd have to do a little bit more digging.
This was a general release in the US or the
Yeah,
UK?
this is the US release. I'm
Okay,
going with.
okay. So I have a theory then, because I know that actually it's very common in the US to go to the cinema on Christmas Day. That's a
Right.
typical tradition over there. And so there's often like a big family-friendly release on Christmas Day or just before it, and then a bit of counter programming.
Sure.
Okay, and then also I would also add that I'm with you, because World War One does sort of make me think of Christmas a little bit, because the armistice is such a classic story of everyone
Yeah,
pausing and
absolutely.
playing football together across the trenches.
hmm
Moving story. Okay, all right. So there was another film that you floated for the third place position. What was that?
Well, that's Barry Lyndon.
Madam! I have borne as long as mortal could endure the ill treatment of the insolent Irish upstart whom you have taken into your bed. It is not only the lowness of his birth and the general brutality of his manners which disgusts me, but the shameful nature of his conduct towards your ladyship.
Which, again, I wouldn't say really has much to do with Christmas, but there are plenty of scenes set in wintry conditions. That's the closest to get, again, that's why this third place, I'd say, is kind of the most stretch we're having to do. But Barry Lyndon, there's a few cold, wintry scenes. It's set in and around, like Europe, isn't it, really? As this character, Barry Lyndon, who has no talent and no ability, but just seems to be able to just, like, ingratiate himself with people who managed to get him to be a social climber, and so it just follows the kind of life of this very lazy, just cowardly, self-serving character, as he kind of like just seems to fail upwards, is what it seems. Well, for some of the film, anyway.
Yes. Okay. So immediately I'm thinking it's giving Scrooge, very selfish character. So I think we can. There are various Christmas. It's giving Grinch a little bit. Though admittedly the Grinch wasn't very sociable, so maybe neither of them are super sociable actually. So he's a bit different from them in that respect. But the fact that it's set in the 18th century, I think, is kind of crucial, because another thing for me when I think of a Christmas movie, costume drama, period drama, glamorous parties in fancy gowns. That, I think,
Plenty of that.
That's what I'm in the mood for at Christmas. I like to watch Little Women. Obviously, okay, that starts at Christmas, so there's a bit more of a connection there. But I also love to watch Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and Sound of Music. All these films where there are party scenes. Oh, the Red Shoes. Lots of amazing, lush costumes and like candlelight, which there's definitely a lot of that in Barry Lyndon. So for me, that was my other option for third place as well. I think there is something slightly festive about the aesthetic of the film, if not the content or Barry Lyndon himself.
Absolutely. But let's move on to our final two now, because I think these are definitely much more squarely in the kind of Christmas-ish
Okay,
category.
do we not want to order though 5 to 3? Did I make a compelling case for the third place being 2001? Are you convinced? Will you be watching 2001 this Christmas?
Well, you know me, I'm very strict on trying to just watch it at the cinema.
That's true. That's a good point. I wonder if we can catch it. Let me see if it's on at the Prince Charles.
I mean, yeah. Listen, of course, I will. It's my favorite film, so of course it gets. You've made a good case, Ali.
Yeah, I would say you're more informed than me because I've not seen Paths of Glory, but I would say that's 5th place. Barry is 4th. 2001 third.
There we
in
go.
my opinion.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on, like you say, to second place. What have we got, James?
We have got 1980's The Shining.
Here's Johnny.
Based on the Stephen King novel, which I'm sure lots of people... It's probably the Kubrick that I'm guessing most people will have seen out of all of his films.
I agree. But will you just give it a quick plot summary just in case anyone hasn't?
Jack Nicholson plays a character called Jack Torrance, who's like a writer, and he's kind of got a bit of a writer's block. So he's trying to kind of like get into a situation where he can focus on his writing. So he decides to take a job at a very remote hotel during winter as its caretaker, so that he can basically just not get distracted, focus on his book. And he takes his family, his wife and small child, who appears to have some kind of psychic abilities of some description that kind of get heavily triggered when they go to what is called the Overlook Hotel. So it's a haunted house kind of film. It's like a psychological horror. Is it really haunted, or is it this the Jack Torrance's kind of mental collapse that we're seeing?
Yeah. So on first hearing, that may not strike you as very festive. Murder, child and sort of domestic violence, child abuse and domestic violence. There is a bit of that, at various turns in the movie. But let's make the case. So, James, what are some of the elements that are festive to your mind?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the setting is at Christmas time, and it's a heavily snowed Christmas, right? So that actually is a big part of the atmosphere and the plot, is that they're kind of trapped and isolated. And towards the end of the film, when they're trying to escape various things, is that the snow is a big hindrance, and they have to use like a snowcat to try and get through the snow. So the point is, they are surrounded by snow. You cannot move for it, and so the quality of the light everywhere is this as if it's been reflected off snow. So, it's very much that time of year, and very much one of the main things we associate with Christmas is essentially a key plot point.
Absolutely. I will have to pick you up on one point. I don't think it's actually set at Christmas. It's set in because they're in a snowy place. So this hotel is closed from I think it was November until May. And I get the impression it's like late November time. Like we haven't yet hit Christmas. Like it's fairly early on in their stay. But actually, I don't think it's ever like spelled out how long they've been in there when everything goes crazy for old Jack Torrance. But you're right. There's a lot of snow in the film. That iconic scene of Danny sliding down the pile of snow from the window. Oh my God, my heart is in my mouth whenever that scene is going down. It's so scary. So yeah, there's definitely that. I also would say that children being invited to play. There's an iconic scene where Danny is on his tricycle. He turns a corner. There are two girls there, surprisingly, dressed in matching cute little dresses, and ask him if he wants to play with them forever and ever.
And ever.
You know what? That's actually the sort of in-joke with Leo and me. We always say to each other, I'm going to love you forever and ever. Guys, that's a little festive treat for you. Look, a window into
little
our
insight into your romantic relationship.
Somewhat tormented, dark relationship. So children playing, very festive. Kids love to play at Christmas, so there's that. Also, the color palette, red, white, and green. Very.
Oh yeah, never.
Yeah, I mean,
that,
I actually think it's not just the snow. The setting of this hotel, which is that it has a massive ballroom. That at a certain point we see a party going on inside. That feels quite festive.
Well, isn't it a New Year's Eve party?
You're right. It is a New Year's Eve party. So maybe you're right. Maybe it is. But the thing is, they're not like doing anything to acknowledge Christmas. So that's why.
No, there's nothing.
But you're right.
It
is a New Year's Eve party. So that's we're actually in Yuletide for at least one of the scenes of the movie.
That seems
Drinking whiskey. That to me feels quite festive.
Yeah.
But the whole aesthetic of the hotel to me feels. There are various scenes with like you turn a corner and there's like a green carpet. There's like these beautiful lush colors at various points. I mean, I don't know if that's partly just because of gushing blood going down corridors and stuff like that. But whatever the substance, the colors are festive at least.
And I think as well that there's an aspect of it that it's very traditional around Christmas time to kind of, especially on the BBC, they often love like having a ghost story, kind of anthology of ghost stories, spooky stories. So kind of like ghost stories, spirits appearing. I mean, you've got the Charles Dickens kind of ghosts of Christmas past and present. And so the Shining is full of that. It's full of these kind of are they ghosts? Are they not ghosts? Are they memories? So it's evoking that feeling of like watching a spooky story at Christmas as well.
That is so true. Yeah, now this is really where A Christmas Carol is being invoked for sure. The spirits of hotel visits stays past. It's
Yeah,
definitely that. Okay,
absolutely.
great. And then also the other thing I have to point out is a sort of a mainstay of Christmas is family tension. So, okay, this is a more extreme version of it. But I mean, true, being stuck with your family for many days.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing more festive than that. Okay, so we have arrived at position number 1 in the top 3, or what's become top 5 of Kubrick Christmas. What have we got, James?
We got 1999 and Stanley Kubrick's final film, Eyes Wide Shut.
Yes.
Please, come forward. May I have the password, please?
Fidelio.
That's right, sir. That is the password for admittance. But may I ask, what is the password for the house?
Which is a film that, like, I was thinking back on this, it's shocking, really. Like, in 1999, I was very much, I was a film fan. I'd just graduated from my undergrad. I was working in the industry. And this was his final film. I didn't go and see it at the cinema when it came out. I kind of bought into all the reviews, which were just saying it's like a very mid-Kubrick film. It's like a lesser Kubrick film and all that kind of stuff. So I just didn't bother. And now I'm like, I cannot believe I didn't go see it at the cinema. Anyway.
Well, have you ever seen it in the cinema? Have you seen it in the cinema since?
I don't think I've ever seen it in the cinema, and I would really love to. I mean, I'm sure Prince Charles is showing it, yeah.
Yeah, I would really be up for it as well, honestly, because I think this is now my 3rd time watching it. And it's interesting because every time I watch it, I love it more and I also sort of hate it more, I think, at the same time.
Interesting, isn't it? It's a funny one. Like, my thing is, when I first watched it, I thought it was a bit crap, a bit boring when I first watched it. But each successive time, I get into it more. But there's also something just off as well. But that also makes it kind of fun. Like, for instance, what I think sums it up is Christiane Kubrick, his wife, said that he'd been thinking about this film based on a short novella called, I think, Traumaville or something, or Traum Story. I can't remember. Anyway, but he'd had that book since the 60s, and she always hated it. She said it was a seedy little book, and she didn't want him to make it. And out of all his projects, it's the only one where she didn't fully support the idea behind him doing it. So that's interesting as well. Yeah.
Okay, well, for those who haven't seen the movie, I'll give a quick plot summary. So we follow Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, who you probably already know at the time of making this film, they were married. And in the film, it's set at Christmas. So already we're lining up why this is an actual Christmas film, is one actual Christmas film, you could argue. And they go to a party, and after the party, they have a conversation about whether or not they both sort of flirted with other people at this party. And then it becomes a conversation about whether or about sort of jealousy. And that leads to Nicole Kidman confessing to wanting to cheat on Tom Cruise. I'm using their actors' names because that's what I'm doing for this.
Because I can't remember what their actual names are.
either.
I mean, and it's basically they're in my mind. I can imagine it's they're kind of riffs on their personalities. Like, to me, watching the film, and I think this is why Kubrick cast them, is because he was playing on the public image that they had of this power couple. So by casting them as like I can't remember what her profession is.
She doesn't have a job, or at least there's no acknowledgement of her having a job. In every scene, she's at home with their daughter. So I suspect she doesn't work, or at least Kubrick had no interest in giving her a richer life.
Yeah,
which we may get into.
But they're clearly an affluent power couple, which is what they were in real life. So I do think he was playing with their public image and making that part of the whole film. Because when you watch it, it's hard to, you just think, fucking hell, they're talking about, like, and not trusting each other, jealousy, all that kind of stuff. And I wonder how much that was hitting a nerve every day they were on set acting this stuff out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So from this kind of confession of hers, even though this confession does not include her saying she actually did anything, it's just about her
She
wanting
didn't do nothing.
to. But she does tell the story in a quite sort of erotic kind of arresting way. So I can sort of, it would unsettle me too, I think, if if my wife was telling me a story like that. But Tom Cruise then spirals basically as a result of
Mm-hmm.
that, and seems to be on a mission to get her back. But from that kind of starting point, he then gets into a series of adventures over one night, which culminates in him going to an orgy of masked, caped people, which it's clear that he's not meant to be there. He snuck in because he's got a password, and then it's sort of the following day is him trying to track down the people that he encountered along the way that sort of helped him at various points, because there seems to have been something nefarious that's happened. Maybe people have been killed, who knows. And that's kind of the plot basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because it is set at Christmas, and there's a Christmas tree in almost every scene, I swear to God.
Yeah. And like there's Christmas lights are used to illuminate many sets, you'll find, or if not Christmas lights, then at least just like regular kind of warm white lights are just kind of everywhere, just to kind of really kind of fill the frame with that kind of festive visual language.
Yeah, and we have an early scene is of them getting tired of wrapping presents being put under the tree. There's then a later scene of them going with their daughter to buy her Christmas presents. So it's interesting because actually the film is very long. It's over 2.5 hours, and it feels like I forget every time that this is actually set over 2 days, like 24 hours basically, I think 48 hours, something like that. Not long at all, but it feels like this is the longest run up to Christmas ever, right?
Yeah, no, it feels epic. I mean, what I think one of the things I really like about the film is you really get this feeling of his nocturnal adventures are this like kind of fantasy adventure. And the thing I always find about it, since my first time watching it, every time I rewatch Eyes Wide Shut, I really get sucked into it. As much as like I don't think he's my favorite Kubrick, it really draws you in because especially because it's like. It's crackers because it starts off, you don't know where it's going. It just seems like a Kubrick doing like a regular drama almost, about a couple at Christmas time. And then slowly it just kind of goes off on one. And what I love is that sensation of like the nighttime is magic and the nighttime is like a fantasy. And then the next day, it's all changed. The world is different. We're back in reality now. And nobody remembers the night before as you remembered it. So I really think that is like incredible how he pulls that off. And yeah, and it has the effect of making it seem like it was a long period of time.
Totally. And you're right, I get completely sucked in, which is why I'd said to Larry before I was watching it that I think this is my favorite Kubrick film, and he was like really surprised. And then after I finished it, because he'd watched it fairly recently, I was like, I don't want to watch that again. You can watch it without me. And then afterwards, he was like, "Is that still your favorite one?" And I was like, "Well." Having watched them in close succession with the other two, I was like, well, no, I think probably 2001 but then they were different. It's hard to, they're all so different that it's very hard to like order them in my mind, because actually I do find probably Eyes Wide Shut is the one that sucks me in the most in a way, because it's also almost this morbid fascination with this weird, fucked up psychosexual situation that's playing out in this man's head who doesn't articulate anything. You don't know how he's feeling. He's so unemotive. So
because like one of my issues that I had with Eyes Wide Shut when I first saw it, especially compared to 2001. 2001 is like it's a masterpiece, technical masterpiece as well. Looks incredible, beautifully shot. The sets are great, cinematography. Eyes Wide Shut isn't really like that. Eyes Wide Shut has a slightly rougher around the edges visual style, which initially I didn't like. Now I love it because it kind of suits the film. Basically, it's almost got a bit of a documentary feel. It doesn't feel overlit, and I also now realize. Now I've kind of hyperfixated on Kubrick for a few years. I now realise there was also a technical part to that, because you do know that Eyes Wide Shut is in the Guinness Book of Record for the longest continuous film shoot in the history of cinema.
We need to talk about that, but yeah, go on.
Right. No, great. Absolutely, because this is what I want to talk about is that the thing is, how did he manage to do that without also making the world's most expensive motion picture in the history of cinema? How do you get to be in the Guinness World Record for the longest shoot ever, but also not blow the budget? In fact, You know, the budget. He always brought his films on fairly reasonably budget. And the thing is, what Kubrick got better at with his last 3 or 4 films was he has a very minimal crew. So when you work in a Kubrick film, it's very stripped back. And one of the reasons it's a minimal crew is because that he doesn't. There's an actor who was saying that when he went on the set of Eyes Wide Shut, they walked past his lighting truck and said it was empty. There was no lights left on the truck. So what it means, he was very efficient. And so a lot of Eyes Wide Shut was literally shot with using those. The reason that all those Christmas lights are everywhere is that they were being used to light the scene, because the way that he was shooting the film with the film stock he had, he was basically pushing it. And what pushing it means you can get more exposure on the film. So the point was, he shot for 300 plus days, but because he got a minimal crew and because he was using essentially like practical lighting to light the set, it meant that he could afford to do that. So he'd perfected over the years. I know that he did it on The Shining as well. He'd perfected over the years this way of minimizing the amount of crew, minimizing the amount of gear that he needs to make a film, which just means that the cost overall comes down, so he can spend much longer shooting. Because Kubrick has always said, isn't it mad that we spend months and months in pre-production, months building the sets, and then you get on the set and you've got to kind of get through all the pages, all your script as fast as possible. So you spend so little time on the actual shooting, so much on the prep and the building. So he kind of wanted to invert that and give himself much more time to shoot.
Okay, that's great for him. That's nice for you. But what about everyone else who's involved? Because I really wanted to talk to you about this, because after I'd watched the film, I did start doing some reading around it, because it's an infamous film for the fact that, they shot for so long, and it's Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, married at the time, and then famously they divorced 2 years later. And a lot of the speculation is that this film really was a contributing factor to them breaking up. I find that a little bit implausible, and personally I'm like, I mean, it was 2 years later, it wasn't like the minute the film finished, and but anyway, but I do think it's interesting, because when they signed up for the film, this was Tom Cruise at the height of his powers. He's the biggest superstar ever, and they committed to 6 months on this film, which already is a long time for a movie, but it's Kubrick, so of course they wanted to do it. I think they probably both felt quite honored that he wanted to work with them. And then it rolls on and on and on for 15 months, which is insane when you think about the fact that Tom Cruise at that point, every movie that he's making, he's being offered at least 20 mil for. So for every 6 months that goes past, every 3 months that goes past, he's losing another film. But he was completely
but it
committed.
also means that it also meant that he wasn't on screens in anything else. So he disappeared from cinema screens for a good year because he wasn't shooting anything else.
Absolutely. And to me, and what I found completely incomprehensible was, so fair enough, Kubrick wanted to spend time on those sets, but I read that one of the shots was of Tom Cruise walking through a doorway, and he was made to do it 95 times.
I heard it was 75 times, but the thing is, when you watch that show, because I know I can tell the sequence in the film, right?
Maybe we can find a clip of it and we'll link to it in the show.
No, it is like literally, it is when he's gone for his crazy night and he's been outed at the orgy, and the woman offers herself in his place. It's a close-up of his face, and then it just cuts to him coming through a door. And when you see him come through a door, that looks like a man who has either had the craziest night of his life at something way out of his depth, or an actor who's been told to open a door 75 times, right? So either way, you get the performance of a very exhausted, like drained, like out of his mind. That's that shot, and I'm like, okay, for that one time, I get why he did it, because he got something,
For that one time, because this is part of Kubrick's deal, right? So this was also famously on The Shining, Shelley Duvall had a complete breakdown because they were made to do so many, 50, 60 takes, because his idea is that he wants to break down an actor so they're completely mentally exhausted, and then they'll forget about the cameras and they're not performing, they're just being truthful, that it's real. What do you think about that, James, as a method of direction?
Look, I couldn't do it myself because I'm just not built like that. But then you just got to look at, it's not how I direct either, and I don't think it's how most people direct. But when you watch a Kubrick film, it's got a certain style about it. And I think part of that style is the fact that those actors have had to say those lines over and over again. And he's picked that, and also I would say that's the one area where Christopher Nolan, who I would say is like the modern riff on Kubrick's style, that's the one area they differ. Nolan is very much about getting in as few takes as possible. But yeah, what do I think of that other method? I think it must be quite exhausting on the cast and crew. However, I'd say, that's, I guess, the price you pay for being a Kubrick film.
But so the thing is with this film, so some other pointers about Kubrick's style of directing to Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. He apparently he engaged in kind of psychoanalysis of the two of them. He'd like sit them down and ask them to tell
Oh
him that
yeah.
their like darkest secrets, darkest insecurities and jealousies about the other person, with them in the room, then hearing that apparently. And there's one of the parts of the film is that when Nicole Kidman kind of confesses to this kind of, I guess, fantasy, this wish she had when she saw this attractive man, that causes Tom Cruise to feel very jealous. And throughout the film, there are moments when he's walking and then it flashes to a shot of Nicole Kidman with a male model in various like engaged in sex or like kissing or whatever, they're naked, and the way it's lit, it's kind of obvious that this is him imagining them together, right? Because we know they never actually did hook up. And apparently when Kubrick filmed those scenes with Nicole Kidman, he made her promise not to tell Tom Cruise anything about it, to not reassure him about the scenes, and he wasn't allowed to know anything about them. And whenever Kubrick gave them direction, it was always one-on-one. He didn't want there to be any kind of communication between the three of them at that point, because he wanted to keep them very separate, because it was all, I think, in his mind contributing to the tension and distance between them in the film. I just find it like so bizarre to me that that was his strategy, when the film doesn't really do anything to let us understand the interior of either of them as people. Like Nicole Kidman, other than this one kind of confession at the beginning about her sort of fantasy life, and I guess you can learn something about her from the way she flirts with the guy at the party at the start of the film. But she's drunk, so I don't know. Other than that, you really don't get to know her at all. I don't know who she is. Like you said, we don't even know if she has a job or not. We don't know anything about her and her feelings and her wants and desires, apart from this one thing. And similarly, Tom Cruise's character, he's so unemotive, he's so stiff, he doesn't react or respond to anything really. There are various moments where people confess things to him and he's kind of just like, okay. And it seems to me, now I know that like he had been like worn down after take of so many months of shooting. I'm like, I can see why he's not emoting very much. He's exhausted. And clearly that was what Kubrick wanted from the character. But I'm like, why would you put these people through this horrible emotional turmoil and torment if you're not even really going to get into it in the film with them? Like, this film is not, to me, this film is not an examination of people. It's an examination of a relationship from kind of the outside, or really just of one man's. There's not a lot of humanity there in the film, or at least not very much interiority. So it feels to me like abusing a super powerful couple just for kicks.
I mean, I guess he's the only director who could have got away with that out of all the, he's the only one who could have done that really in that kind of situation. Also, as well, is it part of his OCD perfectionism? Because they would often say that he wouldn't really give them notes, so it would just be like, do another take, do another take, do another take, and of course that was, like you mentioned, to wear them down more than anything, to stop them essentially saying the words and just it to become automatic. But yeah, and also with this long shoot, do you know about Harvey Keitel having to drop out?
Yes, but tell the audience, tell the listeners.
Well, yeah, so Harvey Keitel was in the original cast, and for the initial 6-month block when they thought they were making the film, which is still, by the way, a long amount of time to make a film, especially one that is essentially set in what was contemporary times. There was no like big action set pieces in this film. Anyway, he was in that original run. He shot all his scenes playing the kind of character is a friend of Tom Cruise's, who hosts the party at the beginning of the film.
Yes, a very fabulous party. He's obviously a rich guy.
Yeah, got a lot of money, a lot of wealth, unsure quite where it all comes from. But as the shoot overran, everybody else kind of stayed on, because I don't think Harvey Keitel was under contract. I think like I think Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman had some kind of stipulation in the contract that they had to stay to the end, and Harvey Keitel didn't. And so he was like, I don't care if it's Stanley Kubrick, I'm off, you know. And so then they meant they had to get another actor to replace him, and then they had to reshoot all of the scenes that Tom Cruise had already shot. Nicole Kidman, all the party scenes where they're at the party together, just everything had to be redone just because a different actor replaced him.
But I have to say, I love that Sidney Pollack replaced him because this is a movie of great directors. We've got Sidney Pollack, who's an actor, but also a fabulous director playing this part. We also have Todd Field playing the pianist, who's the director of Tar, guys. So
Yeah.
there are a few fun moments. There's some good casting for the kind of side characters. I also wanted to touch on the fact that it's a film set in New York at Christmas, but it was not shot in New York at Christmas.
No, because I mean, Kubrick famously, he never went back to America after he left America around the time of the premiere of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Moved to the UK and he stayed there ever since. So yeah, it's entirely New York is entirely recreated on both sound stages, backlots, and UK locations, basically. So the kind of the block that you see them in and around, that's completely built in a backlot of one of the studios. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. Maybe Pinewood. But yeah, that was recreated, and of course he sent scouts out to America, and they photographed and measured every aspect of like a New York block. So the distance between the kind of the bins and the side of the curb, everything was kind of like figured out. And what I love about it, the more I watch it, is that you can if you are somebody who's like tuned into this stuff, you can tell that it's a backlot. You can tell that it's not real, but that's great because the whole film has that feeling. It's like it works with the whole kind of odd fantasy underworld kind of situation, so that actually works in its favor.
Yeah, it's
and then
true. Yeah, because everything feels dreamlike in the film. Like you said, like the nighttime scenes, all the adventures that Tom Cruise's character goes on, it feels like it's not real. Like, is this a dream? Is this a fantasy? What is real?
And
so it
like
definitely
even
adds to it.
even the orgy sequence in the middle of the film where it goes through all these different rooms in a stately home, that's actually stitched together from multiple different stately homes, and I'm damn sure that one of them is the same stately home that they use for Downton Abbey. That's right. I'm pretty sure. I think that's used in Downton Abbey. But yeah, that must have been cool as well. Like they're just on location with a bunch of like male and female models all naked going around these wonderful stately homes and putting on orgies. Like, oh, don't worry about it. It's for a Stanley Kubrick film. It's all fine.
Let's just very, very quickly touch on the orgy scene because it's the thing that I think is the most memorable scene from the movie. And it is actually, every time I watch it, there are various bits about it that I forget because it is a long movie. And yeah. You think Eyes Wide Shut. For me anyway, I think about that orgy scene. And okay, to bring it back to Christmas, capes, masks. Okay, it's more kind of Mardi Gras, I guess, than Christmas. But there is something a bit festive about dressing up, about stately homes, I would argue. But I was interested to read that. You watch this film and it does make me think, God, Kubrick, you dirty old man. But
because I am like, oh my God, who gave the guy who did 2001: Space Odyssey like this like very sterile epic tone? Who thought, you know what, we'll give you some money to make a sexy film?
Yeah, it's so off-brand. Well, it sort of is and it sort of isn't actually, because The Shining, I'd forgotten, and when I watched it again this time, there's that moment where we see the cook, I forget his name, and he's at home and there's pictures of naked women on his bedroom wall, which feels like weird and like, Kubrick, why did you do that? Like, I'm sorry, what grown man does that? Because they're frames, they're nice pictures. It's like they're beautiful pictures, and these women are beautiful. And also, to be honest, like in both Eyes Wide Shut and the models in The Shining, they all have a certain sort of Barbie doll body type. So I'm like, okay, we know what Kubrick's into. and then honestly, that it's that stuff that makes me think, oh, I don't know about this. It's a little bit off-putting,
Yeah,
right,
no,
when you watch
it,
the film.
yeah,
I'm like,
it's the same with me. Like a lot of the time, it leaves me kind of cold. It does. I don't. But I will give him credit. There are a few scenes where I'm like, okay, that's a little bit sexy, but they're not. They're not the naked scenes. They're their interactions with other people. Like they're just a little. Like there's a lot of sexiness, and I think that I was surprised that Kubrick pulls it off much better. Like there's the sequence with Alan Cumming, who plays like a hotel receptionist, and
love.
he's
That's another
flirting with
great
Tom
cameo.
Cruise. The great cameo, and then there's the kind of the two women, one who's like a sex worker and a flatmate, and they have like little things going on, and I'd say there's a bit of chemistry there, and like those to me work much better than the Kubrick doing an orgy stuff.
Yeah, that's just the thing is about it is it really does emphasize the fact that like Kubrick doesn't write women. He just doesn't write them. They are not
Yeah.
three-dimensional characters, and that's definitely the case in this film. So that is the part of it that I really dislike when I'm watching it. But then there are various other things that really draw me in. So hey, I will probably watch it again. The question is, will we be watching it at Christmas?
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to. Yeah, I like from not liking it about 6-7 years ago. I watched it twice over the Christmas period. I was so in. I got really into it. But one thing I'd like to point out, you mentioned about how the film is quite long, and it is long. It's a long film, but what's the eternal question is, how finished was this film? How finished was it? Let's have a look at when Stanley Kubrick passed away. He passed away on March the 7th, 1999. Okay, and when was the film released? July 16th, 1999. So that's a solid 4-month period between when he passed away, when the film was released, and let's have a look at historically Stanley Kubrick's last-minute changes to films, okay? The Shining, because just to give you a little bit of historical context, it's only in the past 20 years that films get released on the same day all around the world, right? It used to be very different. It would be a little small opening, perhaps in New York or LA for one weekend, and then the next weekend it gets a bit bigger. Then so it's only very relatively recently that this whole it comes out everywhere on the same day as happened. So, Shining came out, small release in New York and LA, I think, and because I think it's almost when he plays it in front of an audience, your films are always play differently when an audience is watching it. So anyway, he decided the last 2.5 minutes had to go, so there's a whole sequence, I think, in a hospital with Danny and Shelley Duvall's character, and that like an epilogue basically, that all got cut, but the prints had all been made and it had been released, so there had to be a guy going round from Warner Brothers who snipped out the last 2.5 minutes and joined the credits back on. So he was sent with some scissors and instructions from Stanley Kubrick. So that's one example, but the bigger example is after the public premiere of 2001: A Space Odyssey on a Cinerama screen. Again, it was a limited release on Cinerama to begin with. He started playing it and he was like, "Oh God, it's fucking boring," right? And he could sense the audience getting restless, so he cut 20 minutes out of the film. That's a huge amount of footage to cut out. And again, same situation, I think, in that somebody had to go around the cinemas which had already got prints and snip the bits out, or there was notes sent to the projectionist and they had to copy what Stanley had done. So 20 minutes out of your film on the weekend of its release, right?
And physical media, this is crazy.
This is physical, exactly. None of this
it's crazy.
None of this press a button and distribute your film to 4,000 cinemas.
None of this recalling and sending out another version. No.
No. Snip. Yeah. So he makes big changes on his films once they've been released. So 4 months before the release of the film, you better believe there was going to be a lot of other changes and passes, And I can tell that I feel like for sure tightened up a little bit, I reckon. There's a lot of fades and a lot of dips to black, which I think he might have got rid of. Some of the music, that bloody piano, ding, 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 ding. Like, come on. I reckon he would have changed that up a little bit. It was a bit too often.
I have to say the ending is quite corny. Like it's very, I don't know. It's like,
right.
I'm not, it's
strange. It is corny, but here's the thing, right? Is when I first watched the film, I was like, all this it's all a load of nonsense, all these kind of like secret societies, sex parties, all that stuff. And now, what fucking world are we in where the biggest news headline is all about the Epstein files and his, the secret society that he was the ringmaster of? It's like, holy shit. It's like, actually, I was wrong.
No, but you know what? Watching it again, I also thought about that, James. And I thought, you know what? I reckon that there wasn't much of this going on before. And then everyone watched Eyes Wide Shut and was like, that sounds,
I fancy
that
a bit
looks
of that.
great. Yeah, I'm up for for it. Let's do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, it could be done, but I mean, because it's so it's so chic, you know, well stylized.
Yeah.
Everyone's in tuxes.
Oh, like, I'd love to go to one of those parties, you know.
I don't know. Those poor women.
So I know, and I don't have much time for all these kind of like conspiracy theories that are hanging off a lot of Kubrick's films. I know there's a whole thing about The Shining and all the symbolism in The Shining. I'm very much I like a direct reading of the film itself rather than perhaps going off one.
I know, because I wanted to do an episode with you about those sorts of things, and you were like, no, I have no time for that. I'm not doing it.
I've forgotten about that, yeah. But
the one
however,
hard veto, apart from Sallow, of course.
what good that did me. So anyway, however, I watched a video and the little video essay, and they were saying at the end of the film, when they're in that toy shop, right, with the daughter just wanders off with two men, and that's the last we ever see with her. And it's so well done because you don't even notice it. Watch that end sequence again.
Oh my God, that is horrible. That is I have chills. Okay, this is not the festive spirit that we were trying to invoke with this episode.
and he's definitely one of those. I mean, this is why I'm not a fan. He's definitely open to interpretation, but definitely when you watch that scene, think right. They're in the middle of a busy toy shop, and they've decided to let their daughter just wander off around the corner, and they just stand and have a talk about how boo-hoo, we need to have sex again, blah blah blah, for like 10 minutes. Yeah. Nobody's going, hey, you come back here, don't you go wandering off.
Oh
I mean, God. I know it's a film.
I've never even noticed. Okay.
Neither had I. It was a conspiracy theorist video essay, and now I've got the tinfoil hat.
Oh my God, amazing. Okay, well, we got off piece a little bit talking about all the ins and the outs of this movie, but you know, there's a lot to discuss. And okay, I feel like we've successfully established the unfestive elements, but just to round it out, okay, adultery, prostitution, jealousy-induced breakdowns, erotic dramas. Not very festive. Children being kidnapped by creepy men. Not festive. No, we don't.
No.
We don't like that. I was going to say there is something a little bit Father Christmas-esque, but no, I'm not even going to go there. But festive-wise, set at Christmas, lit by
Christmas trees
tree.
everywhere.
Yeah. Amazing, elaborate parties.
Christmas parties, yeah.
And again,
dressing up, fancy dress.
Fancy dress. Christmas presents. There's lots of mention of those. And of course, again, family tension. It wouldn't be Christmas without it, so there it is. So there you go, listeners. If you want a recommendation for Christmas, please do watch Eyes Wide Shut. All right, well, on that happy note, everyone, we're going to bid you a farewell. Thank you so much for listening to this series. It's been so wonderful to have you sticking with us.
And if you could leave us a like or a nice review, it all helps get the podcast out to a bigger audience.
So happy Christmas, everyone. Bye.
Happy Christmas. Bye.
Groovy Movies is produced and edited by us, Lily Austin and James Brailsford. And James also produced the theme music.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Groovy Movies Pod, or email us groovymoviespod@gmail.com.
For more information about the films discussed, check out the show notes.